Tim Ryan, long ago and far away, you got elected because your Democratic opponent in the primary was essentially NAFTA free trade. If you go free trade in America right now, does it mean political death?
Well, it's not popular because no one dealt with the underbelly of free trade. And that's what's causing a great deal of the stress and anxiety and economic anxiety in America today. These communities like Youngstown, like Akron, like Gary, Indiana, like a lot of the southern textile towns, no one cared. Quite frankly,
right.
No one had an agenda for them. We know globalization had to happen. We know that free trade creates wealth in the aggregate, but these communities were left behind and no one cared.
The basic idea is the progressives, the liberals of the Democratic Party only get their agriculture shrink wrapped out at Whole Foods. You're living the reality of farmers. When you hear the President of the United States talk about patriot farmers, how do you react?
It's a joke. It's a joke. The president has no agenda for rural America. Farmers haven't made a profit in 5 years. The industrial agriculture approach that we've taken is destroying our soil, destroying our environment, killing 220 metric tons of fish at the mouth of the Mississippi River. I mean, we got algae blooms all over the place in the United States, from Florida to the Great Lakes in Ohio. So this is not working, and the president is making matters worse. Okay. He's making the stress level worse for farmers who already aren't making any money. And this is a joke that he has any agenda for rural America. Rural America's in recession right now.
I guess there's 22 candidates. At some point, there'll be 45 Democratic Party candidates, and Tim Ryan is going to slip in through the primary process, no doubt with Speaker Pelosi's support. See, I'm getting out in front of the story, Congressman. You get elected president. How are you going to deal with Chuck Grassley, the farmer from Iowa? How do we get to a center tendency in America where the president from Youngstown can get business done with a gentleman farmer from Iowa?
Well, you sit down and you talk. You open up a line of communication. You don't bully people with an agenda that you think wins the 24-hour news cycle. You have an agenda that's sustainable over the long term. And I think there's a move afoot in the United States around regional and sustainable agriculture. I think there's an opportunity to pay farmers to sequester carbon. There are opportunities here to reduce the stress level and anxiety of these farmers with a real agenda. And we can do it if we come together. There's nothing we can't do. In fact, it's the only way we've ever got anything done in the United States. Right. And I think people are so tired of being divided. They're ready to have a president that's going to unite the country. And I'm going to do that. I did well in my district. President Trump won my home county. So there's an opportunity here for us to pull this country together if Tim Ryan becomes president.
I mean, would you say, and would you agree with the fact that Democrats have been pushing President Trump for months to take a tougher stance on China, on trade, towards China on trade? And if that is true, then is that not what he's doing?
Well, it's one thing to take a tougher stand. It's one thing to be firm. I come from a district where China's been dumping steel tubing into my district for a long time, manipulating their currency, stealing intellectual property. It's important that we are firm with them. But tariffs are a tactical move that really are part of the old economy. I think we have to do them. We have to level the playing field in certain areas. What's the bigger strategy with China? China has a 100-year plan. Right. China has Belt Road.
But let me ask you this, Congressman.
Well, I'm just saying they have a long-term plan. Our president is operating in a 24-hour news cycle. That is not going to win the day for America.
But answer me this. Would you have taken a bad deal with China rather than no deal with China?
Well, you got to look at the entirety of the situation. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's hard to even judge what the president is thinking because one day he's taking a firm position, next day he's backing off. One day he's friends, one day he's enemies. So it's what's the larger strategy? And you know what the larger strategy is under a Tim Ryan administration? Let's dominate the new technologies, infuse them into our industries in the United States, ramp up productivity like crazy, and cut the worker in on the deal. We should be dominating electric vehicles, solar, wind, wind, AI, additive manufacturing. Right now, China they got 40 to 50% of the electric vehicle market. They got 60% of the solar panel market. We're getting our clock clean right now, and those could be manufacturing jobs in places like Youngstown, Ohio, but we have no agenda.
Tim Ryan, for a moment there, you almost sounded like a liberal. I got to be careful what I do here. Tim, I want to go to the reality, which is Ronald Reagan was elected running right, and then he went to the middle to get elected. You've got a set of opponents for the Democratic Party that don't know where the middle is. Do you just assume the liberals, the progressives of your party are unable to come over to Tim Ryan, or are they going to migrate towards Tim Ryan as we get to the convention?
Well, I don't know. I mean, my agenda is practical. My agenda is how do we deal with the stress and anxiety that is crippling our society right now, whether it's economic stress, whether it's the ill health of our country, whether it's our concern about our kids. I just read an article in The Economist this morning about Generation Z's. They're 75% of them. Anxious, stressful. That's their top concern.
Okay, well, let's go
what
there.
are we doing? I'm just saying. Okay.
This is too important, folks. We're going to go there right now. This is really, really important and speaks to the bipartisanship of the young Scoop Jackson we're dealing with right now. Portman of Cincinnati.
You've got about six different names for me already.
Tim, you got to be careful right now because there's actually Republicans in Southern Ohio. Can you get on the same page as Portman of Cincinnati on opioids? You're living heroin and opioids out in Ohio. How do we get back to bipartisan solutions like Ryan Portman or the Portman-Ryan Act? How do we get there across all of America?
It's through presidential leadership. I mean, we go back to Ronald Reagan and Tip O'Neill. This happens. You go back to Bill Clinton and Newt Gingrich. There are opportunities for us to work together if both sides want to. And I want to be the president that brings people together, that builds these relationships. I already have a lot of good ones with Republicans in the House and in the Senate. You got to sit down and listen to each other, respect each other. Everybody has something to contribute, and America is falling behind. And I think if we have a president that stops sugarcoating everything and making it sound like the economy's booming, meanwhile people are losing their jobs in Youngstown, Ohio, or can't make ends meet around the United States, or just barely surviving. If you have that honest conversation, you can come with a new agenda, and it's got to be around how do we provide health care? How do we reduce prescription drug costs for our senior citizens? How do we get healthier as a country? How do we put social and emotional learning in our schools and vocational training back into our schools? These should be things we all can agree on, and in fact they are. The social and emotional learning is backed by the Brookings Institute and American Enterprise Institute. Right. So why aren't we putting that in every school? Everybody wants to reduce health care costs by getting America healthy. Why can't we move to a health care system that incentivizes health and not just disease management? This is doable. Okay. You need a president that's strong enough to lead.